has an element of play in it. We would like to do everything in a way that's more genuine and more productive. And so, just like seeing the beauty in us, it's important to have an element of play in the things that perhaps we would rather not do. It's rather than saying we should do something, it's I choose to do that thing, and all of a sudden it takes on a new life. Actions performed out of guilt or shame lose importance. Guilt is a killer, and it really diminishes our own significance if we're not doing something because we choose to do it, if we're not getting the benefit because it's something that we do of our own free will, and it can lead to resentment and all kinds of negative emotions. So it is important to say, I choose to do these things. The inner monologue can completely shift the perception of what's happening. Resolutions can be reached with sufficient empathy. Empathy is key for bridging the gap and coming to conclusions to make sure both sides are really actually communicating and actually getting the point of what it might be causing any sort of conflict or resentment or anger. It allows it to be aired out and resolutions found. Force can be used protectively or punitively. Protective force is to prevent injustice. So running out in the street to save someone is a protective use of force, and it's not accompanied with any sort of blame. It's not diminishing to that person because it's done without judgment. Whereas punitive is a psychological or physical attack, and of course this generates resentment rather than collaboration. Punitive measures may achieve results, but they perpetuate the whole violent paradigm. Blame is a form of punitive force. Self-esteem and morale all suffer when we play the blame game. And also, it curtails privileges. It causes withdrawal and causes people to lose caring and respect. So definitely avoid a sense of blame and judgment when expressing things of contention to others. There's two questions that we can ask that show the ineffectiveness of punitive damage. The first one, what do I want them to do that's different? If we only ask this question, it may support the idea that punitive action is beneficial. But if we extend that to what do I want their reasons to be for doing it, then it shows that punitive will never be the right answer, because even if you do get compliance, it will be forever tainted by the fact that it was effectively bullied into existence rather than being the free will or the autonomy of the other party. We share well-being as they are the reasons for motivation. Phrases like, I'd like to see you do this because I'm bothered by, is much more beneficial than an accusation or an insult. It's a lot more likely to encourage empathy from the other person of your point of view. Now, how do we express anger? Well put, anger is equivalent to not being in touch with needs. And so when people don't know what it is that they want, then the most common reaction is aggression and anger. So there's a few steps to overcome this. The first is to divorce the other person from any responsibility for causing the anger. No blame, no punishment, just complete independent view of what's happening. While we to identify thoughts that are making us angry. That allows us to give self-empathy and allow the violent thoughts to play out, and thus allow us to see the beauty in the other person, which can be difficult if we're challenged or frustrated or angry, but you got to take it slow. That's the fourth step, is not to succumb to blame, to slow down and live in harmony with our values and allow time for proper responses to come rather than be impulsive. Personally, that's an area that I'm thinking about frequently. How to avoid these trained impulses and really think about the perceived consequences of what we say and do. And finally, we need to express the request in clear action language. Really need to be clear about what it is that something, what could be done to meet the needs that are in question. Anger is absent when we are present. And being present means being in touch with our needs. The English language is partially to blame for the problems that we see. Actually, you make me angry. You're the cause of this. I'm upset that you did this. These are all words where the English language, its colored history really was useful for kings and powerful people that wanted to dominate others, and the language reflects that. And unfortunately, we tend to suffer because of that, because there's so many judgmental pathways built into the language. We might not take time to find the one way to say something that will be interpreted empathetically. Judgment diminishes the possibility of our needs being met, because people can tell non-verbally if you are being judgmental. It'll be written all over you. So even if you manage to say the right words, if there truly is a judgment or blame going on in your mind, then it will be very obvious to the person, and their response or lack of response will probably be in line with the judgment they received. So we need to slow down, because if people hear the blame, they don't hear the pain. There's a nice little Johnny Cochran rhyme for it. If you don't hear the blame, don't feel the pain. So slowing down, expressing what we want to do and what we want, and not succumb to the way that we've been trained to react to these things. Cultural training from all cultures in the world can disconnect us from ourselves. It actively blocks our consciousness because we have these predisposed ways of dealing with things from all the movies and the books, the stories and the history. A lot of it, not the most cherishable actions by humanity, but nevertheless, it affects the way we see things in the future. The way we react to what comes at us in life is largely affected by the history of the culture we've been raised in. As we said, the English language was pretty much, like so many other languages, etched by kings and powerful people, and it was very useful to serve their needs. But there's a lot of ways to say things that are not very useful if the goal is nonviolent communication. We have to separate observation and evaluation. So we can observe what's happening, but you don't want to pass judgments on it. Just be empathetic and see the beauty in what the other person may have experienced and feel their pain. Depression can be thought of as a cognitively arrested alternatives. Judgmental dialogue alienates us from our needs. And you can think of depression as a state of being alienated from your needs. If a lot of times people that are depressed can't say what it is that's depressing them, it's just an overwhelming feeling of inadequacy or other negative emotions. So it's very important that we are cognizant of our needs so that we can express them, we can get them met, and we can move on to a more productive and healthy lifestyle. Nonviolent communication is also a tool for celebrating life. That's through how we express gratitude. Now, surprisingly, praises and compliments can be life alienating. That's the way it's put, because you can achieve short-term success in a manipulative way through specific praise and compliments. And eventually, it can lead to resentment once somebody realizes that the source of that praise was an intention to be manipulative, an intention to coerce someone to doing something. And that's a form of disingenuousness that can lead to resentment and long term, even worse results than just being direct. Praise and compliments can be that very life alienating source. So, positive effects of praise and compliments are short term because they are often used in a manipulative way. And that spoils the gratitude, because lurking behind the gratitude is the malevolent, manipulative intent. So we need to celebrate the way our lives are enriched by others and not just direct praise of specific actions. So we need to be clear on three things for nonviolent communication gratitude. Now, what are the actions taken that contributed to our well-being? What needs were fulfilled through those actions? And what pleasurable feelings were created by the actions? So this is a show of celebration and gratitude that is healthy and lacks the manipulative undertones of just direct praise of specific actions. Now, it does take practice, and it can be thought of as a form of literacy to be able to express all these components verbally, but we are assured that it can be attained through diligence. Nothing of value is in being told what we are, but value is in being told what we did and how it contributed to specific positive feelings. And they conclude with a lovely poem and a phrase that you never walk when you can dance. And I hope to dance. I hope you can dance too. The final idea was the tree of life, the nonviolent communication tree of life, with its two branches, the nonverbal side, the empathy, and the self-expression side. We want to connect what's alive in you, and the other one is communication of what's alive in me. For what's alive in you, when you see and hear, are you feeling this because? Do you need this? Would you like? And for self-expression of ourselves, it's when I see, I feel. When I hear, I feel. And it just takes all of the sting out of the need expression. Would you be willing to? So the self-empathy and self-connection can open your heart. Open it to what's alive in me, what am I feeling, what's alive in you, but without judgment. Which option do we want? Judgment? No, we want empathy and self-expression. And so new strategies can arrive from a connection, and sometimes even without words. So I'm going to close without words.